Hi, this is Witch's Hex. I'm here with Donald Duck Advance, a little hidden gem for the GBA that's a remake of the Game Boy Color game Donald Duck Going Quackers, which is a completely different game than the console version of Donald Duck Going Quackers, which came out for all major consoles at the time. So, we have this little opening cutscene. It's the only cutscene in the game besides the one at the end. Basically, Daisy Duck's been kidnapped, and we're going to go off to save her by collecting 3 orbs in each level, which will activate a teleporter, which will let us move on to the next level. So, you might see here, it's not too complicated here. You gotta jump, you gotta dash. You got your double jump. And this is like a little charming game, maybe directed towards kids. But don't be fooled, this game gets incredibly brutal towards the end. So, you might have just noticed just there, I did the standard thing for collecting an orb. I activated a book by touching it, and that caused an orb to activate with a timer. Timer's not really a concern, because, we're kind of trying to go fast anyway. But it does activate the orb, so you still have to hit the book. Go get the orb. This level 1, it has a lot of these gimmicks with these logs. You can dash across them and get to the other side. We can mitigate a lot of the timing of climbing up them and waiting. This is the one instance we can't. We actually have to wait out the logs here. This is, I believe, the only time we have to do this, unless I make a mistake, but, just gotta jump up them and get the orb. The time limits to get the orbs are extremely generous at the beginning of the game. That's not so much the case later on. That being said, they never should be too much of a problem. So, a note about jumping, you'll notice here that when you jump out of a dash speed, you keep the dash speed. And you'll keep that through all your jumps so long as you don't turn around. Now, that's going to be important later. We also have our punch button there. Something about enemy hitboxes that will become more apparent later on, but it's still apparent right now, is from the horizontal. If you come at an enemy horizontally and you punch them, you'll probably hit. But if you hit an enemy, if you try to jump on an enemy, you won't necessarily hit. Vertical hitboxes are a bit weird. You'll see what I mean when it comes time to jump on enemies more, and I'll talk about it again. Anyway, the logs aren't too far behind here. We don't have to wait too long on them. Want to jump on them, you gotta remember exactly how low they go before you want to jump, because you want to jump on them as soon as possible. And here we have a little bit more vine platforming. Vine platforming isn't too challenging, but it's still, you want to make sure to double jump as little as possible, because double jumping is time you're not moving forward. You want to be on the ground, especially because vines force turn you around, so you can't maintain dash speed, so you want to hit the ground again as soon as possible. Because really what a lot of this run boils down to just making sure you can dash as soon as possible. Unfortunately here, you can't make that. You do have to wait for the second log. It doesn't take too long, but you can't line it up so that the first log comes down. Yeah. So, a little more log waiting here. Not a big deal. Get on there pretty fast. Jump across. I purposely did that turnaround there because that's how I know to save enough time. Because I wanted that second log to line up so that I could dash straight onto it. So, that's why I did that jump and turnaround. You don't have to do that. You can wait somewhere else, but I wanted to keep my dash throughout the whole thing, so... And I know that maneuver takes exactly as much time as it needs to. That bird, if you're on 1 health when you get there, can be a pain. I'll quickly explain how health works, since I don't think I've actually taken a hit yet. So, it works like Ghosts and Goblins. You get 2 hits. So, first, when you start the level, Donald Duck looks happy. And when you take a hit, he gets angry, and when you take a hit again, you're dead. 2 hits, you're dead. Those ice cream cones bring you back to full health. So, they're not, this game isn't as cruel as Ghosts and Goblins. They're health refills and frequent checkpoints, but those health, it's still 2 hits, you're dead, which is pretty challenging later on. Anyway, this stage is a bit special. Every 3rd level, every world is made of 4 levels, and number 3 is always a chase level where either something's chasing you, or in one case, you're chasing something. This one's being chased by a bear. Now, these look like auto-scrollers. They're very much not. There's actually a lot of precision to exactly when you want to crawl. So if you're dashing and you crawl, you get a faster crawl, but it's still slower than walking. So the whole point of the whole everything here is to minimize crawling. So when I get to these spider webs, I'm trying to just duck under them for the minimum amount of time. And jump over them. End of level. That chase level isn't too bad. They get harder. So here we have small platforming mistake there. Unfortunate, but they do happen. Especially the platforming, they don't expect you to be dashing through all the platforming. They want you to line it up more, which, is slow. But because they give us this dash button, we can dash through all of it, and it makes it quite challenging. Now this level has an interesting gimmick. It wants you to go down these logs, but you can just jump across. This level is very short as a result of it. Just because, you skip all of it. I mean, sure, there's stars, which, are kind of like coins in Mario. 100 gets you a life. But you don't need those. There's also extra lives in them. There's actually a couple. You could get a lot of goodies from this, but here's a fun fact about this game as well. This game tries to counterbalance its very harsh difficulty by, giving you a ton of lives. Like, you can see I'm at 19 lives, despite having not died. So here, I messed it up there, but for those bouncing platforms, the key to doing them fast is that I want to turn around as little as possible. Now this one makes you go back and forth, so there's nothing you can do here, but, as I said before, if you're dashing, you can... If you're dashing over the platforms, you can maintain your speed, which, is a good thing. So we're going to fall down here. I'm actually going to try to time the cycle by getting here of the thing on the right. I don't think I did it quite right, so I'm not going to quite be able to jump across, unfortunately. If you touch the magnet, you take a hit, and I'm already on low health, so if I take a hit, I die. So unfortunately, I kind of failed that time save, but oh well. So right here, I'm going to try to get across these with the dash, which that just shows how much faster, because it's a lot slower if you're going across the other way. Normally I would drop down here, but I'm on 1 health, so I couldn't. Because there's spikes below those things, and it's faster to run through the spikes, but only if you're on full health. Which is actually a pretty big part of the run, is, knowing exactly where to damage boost, because damage boost, you get a lot of iframes, and you get a lot of movement, a lot of iframes out of that. But you get 1. So right here I'm going to damage boost. Because it's a lot faster than climbing those ropes. But yeah, you only get a single damage boost per span where there's an ice cream cone, so you have to be really careful about them. Especially because, again, this game is very difficult, and a lot of the time I'll want to have that second health, just in case. Not so much at this point in the game, though. At this one's a little tricky. They absolutely want you to be using double jumps there, so you need to actually time out how far to jump. This level has a couple cool tricks in it, actually. So we can actually do a skip right here. It wants you to go around there, but you can actually jump off that enemy, and that'll give you just enough height to get up here, which lets you skip a portion of the level that fortunately doesn't have an orb in it, because, you know, if it had an orb in it, we'd have to go get the orb, but no orb means we can skip it, so that saves maybe 10 or 15 seconds. So, you know, that's a cool little skip. There's a couple of those in the run. I'll point them out whenever we get to them. So something about this level particularly, there's a million and one wrong ways, but you can just, you know, go the right way and save a bunch of time. So here we have another one, and balloons are mean. You can't make these cycles. The game gives you a lot of cycles that it looks like you can just barely make, but you can't. You cannot hit the balloons when they first spawn. You have to wait for the second one. Pretty much every single time. There's a couple exceptions to that, like right here you can get a balloon if you bounce off the enemy just in time to get there. This cutscene, the balloons are still rising in it, so can't get them again, it's impossible. Fortunately, there's this line of stars here, which helps you perfectly align with the right-hand balloon. Which, you know, is a nice little visual indicator to make my life a bit easier. So, here we have more of these things. Those things will actually kill you if you go underneath them. Here's a million balloon cycles that it looks like you can just barely make. So, oh look, the balloon, no. There is absolutely no way to do that. That one you actually can make, but I just barely missed it, unfortunately, so I lost a couple seconds. But here's another mean balloon. Balloons! I yell in anger. Balloons are just a gimmick for that stage. Anyway, here's the unique chase stage. Instead of being chased by something, we're going to chase a squirrel, which casually makes this stage a bit easier. If the squirrel gets off camera, which it will a couple times, just because the game will force it to get off camera a few times. That being said, we won't have a ton of trouble chasing it. If it gets off camera, there'll be a 5-second timer to catch back up to it. Like right there, we saw it for a split second. It's not too bad. This is probably the easiest chase stage in the game casually. Not in the speedrun. There's, you know, the trade-off to this being a very easy casual chase stage is that they expect more difficult platforming of you, because the chase stages tend to have easier platforming than the non-chase stages. But because this one kind of puts you on a less tight schedule, it can afford to do a little more challenging platforming. Like right there, I kind of missed a jump. You know, still plenty of time to catch up to the squirrel, but little mistake there. So here's a fun fact that we're, I think, going to see in a second. Right there. You can punch the squirrel. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't slow the squirrel down. It does drop some stars, which, you know, good for it. But I just find that a little funny, that the squirrel actually is, you know, interactable. Because although we're chasing the squirrel, we're just leaving through the portal. We're not catching the squirrel or anything. And because this game has no cutscenes or anything, I know about as well as you do why we are chasing a squirrel. So anyway, just there you saw me attempt a damage boost. I messed it up a little bit, but I still managed to save it. So the gimmick with that damage boost there is that so you're gonna get hit by that steam vent unless you want to wait around, which you don't. So what you do instead is you get hit, and then you want it to boost you upwards, because it will, but you have to make sure to regain. So you jump off so it'll boost you upwards rather than just hit you. Anyway, here's more of this electricity wire platforming. It can actually be kind of a pain if you're on low health. If your timing is bad, you can get in a situation where you have to just walk next to it until it gets in a position. Because if it's moving away from you, and you want to pass it, you can't. You can't jump far enough while it's moving away from you. So that's a thing. So here's another orb, and this one is another little cool skip. So the idea is to get, so I'm going to take a hit there because I don't want to kill that enemy. The idea is to get that orb and then go back down around and up the wires again. But you can, once again, bounce off an enemy's head to do that. I took a hit there rather than, killing the enemy, so I could keep the enemy. And I wasn't going to be able to get over that electricity, so I took a hit there as well. And we're in the Haunted Mansion, and this is where the game starts to get very, very difficult. This is... So, the first thing is that the platforming just gets a lot more complicated. The health gets a lot less frequent. But in this level specifically, the biggest challenge is the enemy hitboxes start to get weird in a very mean way, and those skulls are not a problem. And I dove into those spikes in order to get down faster, because I don't want to climb the thing. These enemies have a very weird hitbox. You need to be facing away from them, but it's you have to hit them way earlier than expected. So yeah, I need to just wait that out if I want to not take a hit there. Which I do, by the way. I want to make... there's a lot, not only is it, it gets difficult at this point and I want my health, but there's some damage boosts. So in order to line up the timing with these chandeliers, I actually moved back a very small amount just so that I could guaranteed get under them. Pick up the orb. So yeah, your timing actually has to be pretty precise with those. It looks like if you just run forward you can get them, but that's actually not the case. You actually have to be in the correct timing. If you're in the wrong part of your dash when you get there, you will get hit by them. So you need to actually kind of take a step back and make sure your dash is just fully set up, because you do accelerate a little bit, even though it doesn't really look like you do. And that's only really relevant here. But I want health right now. I don't want a damage boost so that I can damage boost here, because waiting for these ghosts is slow. So whenever possible, I want to damage boost through them. And here's 3-2, and 3-2 is a very mean level. And it's not mean for any other reason than those pumpkin enemies have really mean hitboxes. So, as I've said before, you can kill enemies either by jumping on them, unless they're like this enemy that, has a candle sticking out of its head. Took an accidental death there, but it's pretty close, so it's no big deal. So you can either jump, enemies you can't jump on are obvious. They have, they have like candles on their head, or, something to indicate that, they're, not safe to jump on. Spikes, fire, something. Most enemies you can jump on or punch. Spiked enemies or fire enemies, you have to punch them. I mean, or you can ignore them, but still. So those pumpkins, you can jump on them. In fact, the game downright requires you to jump on them sometimes. Like right here. But, well, or you can do that. But their hitboxes are some of the worst in the entire game, if not the worst in the entire game. I'm maintaining health here just because I don't trust pumpkin hitboxes. At all. Because, like, right here, for example. Like, I landed on that pumpkin, but it's not giving that one to me. So here we have another, and it makes you do 2 here, which, I think I'm gonna take a death there. I usually take a death there, just because A, this game is hard, and B, this pumpkin is not friendly. But that's okay, because it doesn't take too long to get back over there. But yeah, you can just see that you are it doesn't look like you're supposed to be able to jump on them just by how you take damage, but then you get to one and you jump on it and it works. And also with ones like this one that's coming up on the right, the only way to not jump on it is a very precise trick that I did just there, where you can punch it and still land on the platform, but you need to be extremely accurate with your positioning there. Which is somehow still easier than landing on the pumpkins properly. So, that time it's okay. I took a hit there. I'm going to use that damage boost that I took in order to kill that pumpkin. And we're up to these bookshelf jumps. I guess they're not really bookshelves, but still. They're actually kind of challenging. If you're not on rhythm perfectly with those things, you'll just fall down. I've practiced them a bunch, so they're not too hard for me at this point, but they are pretty challenging. So took a death there. Little thing, you can see those things because they kind of loaded in after the death screen, which means that, you know, they got to show up on the death screen, which is a little cool, interesting fact. So there was an ice cream cone there, so unlike last time when I was on low health, I just damage boosted from them. Tried to kill the pumpkin, but again, pumpkins have garbage hitboxes, so didn't work. Unfortunately here, this segment kind of requires health, so I'm going to try it, but I'm pretty much guaranteed to take a death here. It's not a big death, because the save point's right there, but it is what it is. This isn't the best 3-2 I've ever done. As I've said before, 3-2 is an absurdly hard level. And mostly because of pumpkins. I would honestly call 3-2 one of the hardest levels in the game, just from pumpkin hitboxes and the type of platforming they make you do with them. But once you're over here, you're home free. You can jump over the pumpkin here. You're done with pumpkins. There are other pumpkins. Or actually, I don't think there are any more pumpkins. Here's the next chase stage. This is when chase stages start to get a little difficult. We're being chased by a ghost, and the ghost is also a little unique in this stage, in that, unlike other entities that just come at you from the back of the screen, like the first one and the last one, the ghost actually kind of floats up towards you through obstacles, and just generally chases you through everything. It disappears sometimes for some parts of the level, but it'll be back. But once again, chase stages mean that the platforming isn't quite as hard. Here's a pumpkin, but bye pumpkin. That's not to say there aren't any challenges, especially with the way they set this one up. That jump is a little tricky, actually. You need to jump off the rope exactly the right spot. For casual players, fortunately they, removed the ghost there, so you can take your couple attempts at it, but not us. We want to go fast. So the fastest way to do this segment, they want you to bounce back and forth, and that'll let you not get hit by the ghost there. But, it's a lot slower. Pretty often they'll leave stars as a method to, just tell you how to move around, so you can use the stars there as a guide. They're a little cool visual indicator. So, yeah. These torches you always go under or over, or over-under, depending on your timing. You always have to do one then the other. Because crawling is slow, as I've mentioned before, if you can afford it, you damage boost through them, just so you don't have to crawl. I actually punched there. I jumped a little early, but punching in the air can very, very slightly extend your jump. So I punched there to extend it to make up for jumping early, because I would have died if I hadn't done that. Yeah, so want to get across those as fast as possible. And that's the end of that chase level. There's one more of those in the game, and the next one is actually very difficult. Just so difficult casually that it's even a problem in the speedrun, but I'll get more to that later. You can always get up exactly 2 of those at a time, including exiting them at the end, and that includes the beginning too, but doing it at the start is risky. Damage boosting through, so it's better to not do it because there's an odd number. Damage boosting through that enemy down there, the one swinging the chain, would have taken forever otherwise. Unfortunately, it does mean I have to wait for these ghosts, so it's a bit of a trade-off. If I were to die here, I would damage boost through this segment next. Let's get this. So this segment is one of the hardest segments in the game. Not getting this orb. Usually I'll get this orb and do the next segment on different lives, just because it's super brutal, especially with these hitboxes. So the first thing is that, then you have to jump across and land on this. Jump up there, then you need to hit this one, and because these hitboxes are so weird, it's hard to actually hit that properly. Like, I've said it before, but for those enemies, you have to punch way earlier than you normally would for something that scale. And then, yeah, that one at the end, So that one at the end is a little mean, honestly. You can't see it there, and it is always there, but you can't see it. It comes up, and you die to it. Bit of an accidental death there, but It's really easy to forget about that enemy, especially because you can't see it until you've already jumped. I tried to recover back onto the rope, but I missed and wound up going into the spikes, which would have killed me just as much as if I had finished that jump. So, really, once I had that jump, it was just... that was kind of the end of it. But, coming here, I usually keep a health here just to damage boost through this enemy. I mean, it is slower to wait, but at the same time... it is slower to wait, and it's it's faster to damage boost through one of the other ones that takes longer to turn around, but it's not safe. So I'm gonna go across these, actually, instead of just dropping straight down. There's spikes, which wouldn't normally matter, but I'm gonna want a damage boost here. So, this orb is actually kind of mean. It's not a hard one, but there's a checkpoint between the activation and the orb. So if you get the orb too early, you know. Anyway, I'm damage boosting there. Accidentally got hit by a ghost, unfortunately, but you have to run back, so it's really bad to die there, and because there's one of these enemies with awful hitboxes... anyway, now I'm going to damage boost back here instead to carry it through. Till the end of the level. Well, till the end of the obstacles, anyway. So there we go. We're now in the final level, Chapter 4, and... this is where the game gets brutal. Once you've landed on these, you can't really dash off of them. I mean, you technically can, but it's really not worth it. First of all, these cycles are meant for 1 jumps, and you could do 2 with a 2 jump, but when you try to dash off those, they fade into the lava, and your dash does have a startup. So if you dash off those, you can die. Unfortunately, I took a hit in that opening segment, which is going to make this next segment kind of challenging, because it kind of relies on a damage boost, so I'm going to try to do it without. If I can... it's honestly, if I can get the orb here, which I believe I do, then I can take a death. No, unfortunately I didn't get it. But yeah, you keep orbs through death, so... which is more important in the next level, actually, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So yeah, I need my damage boost, otherwise I would just leap up these and take the damage from the spikes. Because this enemy... now I need to get down here. The axe usually hits you on the backswing unless you are very slow about it. And then there's the fire here. That fire is actually really hard to dodge, but it's doable. Fortunately, they give you an ice cream right there, because this fire is hard to dodge too. These are... I feel like these... but, yeah. I want to have both health for this upcoming segment, because I will probably get hit by the boulders, just given, you know, just given this segment right here. I actually didn't, but yeah, then I got hit there. Because ideally I want to get hit there, because you can't run up these slopes with boulders. Yeah, like that. Because if you're running up a slope, when you're running, your jump is actually, you don't gain the same height on these slopes, because, you know, you jumped at an earlier time. And even with the double jump, you can't actually make it over the boulders, so you have to walk up them. So damage boosting up those slopes when you can is good. Down the slopes is not the same problem, in fact it's the opposite. Here I'm just going to cross these. I'm waiting towards the end to damage boost. Or I didn't have to damage boost at all. Usually I damage boost there. I guess I just got the cycle where damage boosting didn't wind up being necessary, but normally I would damage boost there if I'd gotten a different cycle towards the end. Oop. Missed that little jump a couple times. So, yeah, we're going down here. So these little spike segments, yeah, took a hit there. I'm actually not sure how I died there, even watching it back. Because I couldn't pick up the ice cream because I was on full health. I guess you know what happened there? I got hit, I kind of just figured it out. I got hit by 2 attacks on the same frame. Because I was both stabbed by the lance, and I hit the spikes. So I got hit twice before entering iframes. Which is honestly just awful, awful, awful luck. Especially because considering that that spike hit was intentional. I wanted to be able to dash through there. This segment is kind of cool, actually. I really like it, so it doesn't matter if you have full health or not. hitboxes. I jumped a little early on the enemy. But let's see it this time. It's easier with full health, albeit it is, you know, not at all undoable without it. So, yeah, this game is hard, and you do start to see a few deaths here. But yeah, I damage boost through that. You can actually, and then I just turn around to get the orb, and the exit's right there. You can actually see a little glitch that becomes much more annoying there later. When you're in iframes, it actually only prevents you from dying. It doesn't prevent you from losing health. But since you only have 2 health, allegedly that doesn't matter. But that's not quite true, because if you pick up a health power-up while in iframes, you still lose the health power, and then you get hit, you still lose the health power-up. Which is, kind of annoying, honestly. It doesn't really affect things now, because the number of places that can happen and be relevant are extremely few, but there's an area coming up in a little bit towards the very end of the run where you can have that happen to you and it actually make a difference. So here we're going to run up that slope. If you run up that slope just directly, you'll get to the top before the first boulder spawns. I'm on 1 health now. That's actually intentional because I'm going to want to do a death warp here. If I wasn't on 1 health, I would get hit by these spikes down here and not have to crawl, but then you have to wait for iframes. So, there we go. Take the hit. Now I've got the orb. This orb and the third orb in this stage are the only 2 orbs in the game where it's faster to do that death warp than it is to... It's faster to do that death warp than it is to do anything else. Just because, like, first of all, they're very out of the way, and second of all, going up takes a lot longer than going down, so... this one's quite a difficult one. You have to kind of do some tricky maneuvering, especially on 1 health. And you got a limited time frame, which doesn't matter unless you miss this first jump. If you miss this first jump, which is actually surprisingly easy, because, so something you don't see there, and the reason I missed that jump, and the reason I've missed that jump every time I've missed that jump, is when you pick up a book, it eats your dash, and you can't dash for like a few frames. And you need to dash to make that jump. You cannot make that jump without dashing. So anyway, going across, I actually did have a bit of an unfortunate circumstance where I got there just too late. And I have to take a death to get back over there, because that wasn't going to happen on 1 health. So we're going to have to do that again. That was a little bit of a mess up there, but not the end of the world. We can recover from this. So we'll just do it again. On full health this time, so this should go smoothly. Now, allegedly, I don't want a death warp on this one, but that being said, the odds that I'll have to are pretty high, considering. So I'm going to try to abuse iframes, but yeah, those spikes next to those things are very hard to go through fast. Mostly because, you know, you have to wait, and waiting isn't fast. And also, once I've entered those dashing, you can't... The only way to stop dashing is to turn around, which isn't something you can do while flying. So I lured the bat up there to get up here more quickly. So that I can bounce off the bat. And here's these little pikes that come down from the ceiling. You have to wait them out. There's actually 2 sets of them, and it's faster to damage boost through the second one, because it's longer. Anyway, here's another one. This orb is super out of the way, and so we're going to do it again. It wouldn't be faster if you couldn't damage boost, because you have to go through the pike section again, but... So we're going to get the orb and then run into those spikes. You want to be on 1 health here, so that... I mean, also that damage boost is pretty important, but you also just want to be on 1 health there to be able to hit the spikes instead of jump over into the lava, because you would take slightly longer to do it that way. So in this next part, with this damage boost again, since I do have to do it twice, you can either, depending on your timing, you can either get stuck by the rock or the spikes. It doesn't matter, you'll carry your iframes either way. And that's the end of that level. Here's 4-3. This is another chase stage. And this one is downright brutal. You do not have room for a lot of error here. And yes, this even applies casually. This is how the level's intended to be played. So those fireballs that jump out of the lava, their hitboxes are strange. You have to time your double jumps perfectly to get off of those, like, 2 pikes that I just died to. Yeah, even as a speedrunner of this game, I still find this room challenging, and I've practiced this room for hours. Fortunately, the one thing this game does, the thing this game does is that, yes, it's brutal, but also it's very fair with its checkpoints and how many lives it gives you. Like, I'm on 33 lives, and I have never once done anything to get safety lives. These have just been lives that I picked up by picking up stars and lives that just so happen to be on the fastest path. Which I think is honestly a good way to do it. You know, hard games that are, you know, forgiving to their players are pretty good in my opinion. But anyway, we're still being chased by this boulder. There's a few, whenever you have to go up, a new boulder spawns. One thing I'm going to note is these spikes, like right there, I'm going to actually damage boost. If I know that there's an ice cream cone coming up, and I haven't taken damage in another place. This is because, once again, crawling is slower than walking, so... So I didn't want to get hit by that enemy, because it means that I can't damage boost here, but it's not a big deal. It only loses a few frames. So we're gonna do that. Almost did that deathless, which is pretty good. I took 1. Anyway, this stage has this gimmick. This is the last stage, besides the final boss, and this stage has this gimmick with opening platforms like that. I damage boosted there to be able to get through everything and just run straight, but they don't look hard, and they're really not hard, but the thing about them is that the rate in which they move is actually very different from every other game I've ever played. You always expect them to move faster. I'm gonna take a death here, probably. Nope! Oh, okay. Usually I take a death there, just to restore my health, but I guess this run I didn't. Yeah, we gotta kill that, because it's gonna keep spitting fire at us, and we can't dodge it when under there. So here's where these actually get pretty annoying, is these orbs here, this one and the next one that require you to do this platforming. Especially the next one. Actually, all 3 in this level, really. But the second one is the most annoying, and I'll talk more about it when we get there. But yeah, with the way the platforms move, you mess up, and you mess up, and you can't get to the orb. But yeah. Unfortunately, I meant to land on that fire spitter there and miss, which resulted in my death because I was on 1 health, because, you know, 2 health, 2 hits you're dead. So I did take a death there. I also fell there, but that death's not as important because it was literally right next to the thing. This is not an easy game. I cannot stress that enough. But, yeah. This isn't actually the hardest level, though. The hardest level would be 4-1, the one with the, with, like, the rotating blocks. And with the spikes on one side. I would actually say that's the hardest level. I've also practiced it the most, though, so I don't think that comes across when you watch this, because I pretty much got that one down. Anyway, this one, I almost messed up there. So you get 1 chance to get up these. If your timing's wrong, it's wrong. And if you miss those, that's the one time the timer actually matters on those things. I say even though we missed one earlier in the run, but that one doesn't normally happen. I'm going to want to dash off this platform as soon as I get an opportunity in order to skip waiting for it to cross. Then I can kill this little fire spitter. We can go up here to the final orb in the game. This one isn't as bad as the last one. You pick up the book, it's over there, you have 10 seconds, you get across. There's also a health next to it, which is pretty nice. Because we're going to need that health in a second. There's going to be a little thing that's, which is both very difficult and very slow to not damage boost across. So yeah, there's 2 axes right there. And getting around both of them would require me to kind of just stop and jump around in time, and that's slow. So I don't want to get hit by this bat. So I kind of was in a bad spot, and I kind of got unlucky with the way the bats moved there, and I died to them. So that was kind of bad luck with the bats. But I don't have to get the orb again. We have every orb in the game now. And that'll let us just get to the end. The end of this stage is like just ahead of where I died. Gonna take this damage boost again. Yeah, you see, I think I tried to jump over it just to try something, because jumping isn't slower than walking, so what I did there was no slower, so I guess I was just messing around with that, but it's you know, it still took the hit. Anyway, here we come to our here we come to the final and only boss in this game. And this boss is not easy. So it's, you know, first you have a fire spinning. First you have a phase where, or an attack where the boss you know, goes to the bottom of the floor and does something. And then you have an attack where the boss, yeah, throws fire. You might have multiple of those. What it does there, it's not random, but it's not random, so there's that. Then the boss is going to throw fire, and I think in this, yeah, I was in a bad position there. By the time I realized what position I was in, it was too late. Because I couldn't have possibly dodged fire with that pattern, with the way that was set up. So, yeah, we got so, you know, unfortunately I took a death there, but taking a death here is kind of, again, this boss is deceptively hard. So yeah, after this, then we have to duck under this one. And then we get, yeah, then we get another chance to punch, and then we get a bat form. See, remember when I said earlier about that bug with Ice Cream? I just wasted an Ice Cream there that I was saving for this phase. Because this phase can be mean. So the boss jumps up there, and then jumps up in the corner. Those are your 2 spots to dodge the boss during that phase, and yeah, you can, if you're really, really unlucky, and by really unlucky, I mean it happens about 20% of the time, the boss will just so happen to throw fire in the 2 places you can dodge them. Unfortunately, I missed there, which is just, it's over. Lost at that boss the last possible second, which is kinda sad. So I actually had to do this 3 times this run, which is a lot more than I usually have to do here. Unfortunately, this run had a really bad boss fight. But yeah. Punch that, jump over that. Wait for fire to spin, punch. Duck. Duck. Because we're playing a Donald Duck game. Punch. Bat form. Fire does dissipate between bat form, or after every bat form. Which is good, because the game would be literally impossible if it didn't do that. But, yeah. Also, unfortunately, when you're saving Ice Cream for later, sometimes fire, you may have already noticed this. So you can duck in the corner, but the thing about ducking in the corner there is that it's actually completely unreliable. It only works sometimes. Fortunately, the boss kind of went through fire in a pattern where neither of the places I could duck were... Oh, well, the corner was, but that one wasn't, so I had to do it there. Which is always safer, but harder to do, if that makes any sense. And punch, dead boss, end of run. Time, of course, is on final hit to the boss. And we get this closing cutscene. And everyone was happy forever. Until I accidentally mashed into another game, because that's actually really easy to do, is to mash into new game, because there's kind of no break after the end of things. But we get to see this bad CG again at the end of this video, so that's cool. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed Donald Duck Advance, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video.